All right, so you're aiming for chief fire officer. That's a leadership role with some serious community impact. We're going to dive into those RoleCatcher resources you sent us to help you nail this interview.
Sounds good.
You've got the career guide, the interview guide, even those AI tools.
Yeah.
They're really setting you up for success here.
Yeah, and you know what's really smart about how RoleCatcher approaches this? It's not just about like finding the job, it's about understanding the whole journey, the career path to presenting yourself as the right candidate. It's like a roadmap, maybe a coach in one.
Let's jump right into some sample questions. First up, what inspired you to pursue a career in firefighting? It seems simple enough, but you're not just sharing like a childhood dream here.
Right, exactly. They're looking for that genuine passion and how that passion connects to the actual demands of being a chief fire officer.
Mm-hmm. So when you're answering this one, go beyond the hero story. Was there a specific event, a person who inspired you, or maybe even like a deeper sense of duty?
And then think about how those motivations have evolved. What values drove you then, and how do they connect to the leader you are NW? The interviewer wants to see that initial spark for sure, but also the growth and self-awareness you've gained along the way.
Yeah, it's like showing them the roots of your dedication, but also how those roots have grown strong enough to lead a whole department.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, next question is a big one. What are the most important qualities for a chief fire officer to possess? This is where you prove you get the complexity of the job.
Yeah, this is not just about extinguishing those fires. It's about leadership,
Right.
strategic thinking, communication, resource management. You need the whole package here.
And, I'm looking at RoleCatcher's career guide here. They've got things like active listening, coordination, critical thinking. Those are huge clues to what they value in a candidate.
Absolutely. Pay close attention to those lists.
Yeah, and they don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher mentions long hours, nights, weekends, holidays. It's not always going to be easy. So when they ask, how do you prioritize tasks and manage your time effectively, you got to showcase a system. How do you stay organized?
Think about those specific tools and techniques that you personally use. Do you have a way you prioritize tasks? A project management software? Even just a good old-fashioned to-do list. Be ready to share what works for you and why it's effective, especially in that high-pressure environment.
It's about showing them you can handle the fire hose of responsibility, pun intended, that comes with the job.
Yeah.
And speaking of responsibility, a huge part of this role is creating that positive and inclusive work environment. So how would you answer, how do you foster a positive and inclusive workplace culture?
Okay, so here you want to go beyond just like those surface level statements.
Right.
It's about showing that genuine commitment to diversity and a healthy work environment. So think about specific actions you've taken in the past to actually promote inclusivity and support your team.
And I like how RoleCatcher emphasizes continuous learning is a key skill. And this isn't just about, staying up to date on firefighting techniques. It's about like evolving leadership styles and really understanding what inclusivity means.
And that's what makes a good leader, right? Being proactive and always looking for ways to improve for both yourself and your team. Think about any professional development opportunities you've sought out and how you encourage that growth in your team as well.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit to a crucial part of the job, risk management. How would you tackle the question, what is your approach to risk management? This is where you show you can assess hazards, make those critical decisions, and ultimately keep your team safe.
And this is where your experience and expertise really shine. Explain that process you use for identifying and mitigating risks, how you ensure your team is prepared for those potential hazards out there.
And it's a field that's constantly evolving. I mean, RoleCatcher mentions all sorts of stuff. You've got advanced communication systems, thermal imaging, new protective gear. How do you stay ahead of the curve and make sure your team has the latest knowledge A&D tools?
Well, this ties right back into that continuous learning, doesn't it? What's your philosophy on training? Do you seek out opportunities to expose your team to those new technologies, the new methodologies? Are there certain certifications or training programs you prioritize? This is your chance to show you're proactive.
It's about showing them you're not just reacting to risks, but you're actively anticipating and mitigating them, which is, that's crucial for a leader in this field. Now, let's move on to a question that focuses on keeping your team sharp. How do you ensure your team is up to date with the latest firefighting techniques and technology? They want to see that you're not just a boss, you're invested in your team's development.
And again, think about your approach to training and professional development. Do you encourage your team to, for instance, pursue those certifications? Do you facilitate those knowledge-sharing sessions? And RoleCatcher lists certifications like fire officer, inspector, hazardous materials, signaling what's considered that industry standard. How do you go beyond that?
Yeah, it's about going above and beyond, showing that you're dedicated to creating a culture of continuous learning within your team. And speaking of team dynamics, let's tackle this one. How do you approach conflict resolution within your team? I mean, let's face it, firefighting is a high-stress environment, and disagreements are bound to happen. They want to see that you can handle those situations constructively.
Right, so this is where your leadership and your interpersonal skills come in. Think back to specific examples of how you've successfully navigated conflicts in the past, especially in those high-pressure situations. Because remember, RoleCatcher specifically says working as a team in a hazardous environment is a core skill. So how do you make sure conflict doesn't derail teamwork when lives are on the line?
It's about showing them you're not just a firefighter. You're a mediator, a leader who can guide the team through those tough interpersonal moments. Now let's get to what's arguably the most crucial aspect of the job: preparedness. How do you ensure that your team is prepared for emergency situations? This is about proving you can translate theory into action and ensure that everyone is ready when it really matters.
So think about RoleCatcher's breakdown of career stages: firefighter, lieutenant, captain. Each level builds on the last, demanding more responsibility and expertise. How would you approach training and simulations to prepare your team to not just react, but to anticipate and lead in a crisis? What kind of leader do you want to cultivate within your team?
It's about showing them you can instill that culture of preparedness where everyone's constantly honing their skills and ready to face anything. And of course, we can't forget about the logistical side of things, the question of resources. So how do you approach the question, what is your experience in managing budgets and financial resources? Fire departments often operate with, limited resources, so they want to see that you can be a responsible steward.
And this is a great opportunity to leverage RoleCatcher's AI, actually. You can plug in keywords from that job description and really see which aspects of your experience to highlight. Maybe it's cost-cutting measures you've implemented, grant writing experience, or even advocating for, increased funding.
So it's not just about what you've done, it's about how you frame it to align with their specific needs and priorities.
Right. And RoleCatcher's AI can actually give you feedback on how well your answers resonate with the specific requirements of the chief fire officer role.
It's like having a personalized coach helping you craft the perfect pitch for your skills and experience.
Exactly. Welcome back. Now let's dive into those behavioral interview questions. This is where you really get to showcase your experience.
Yeah, those tell me about a time or describe a situation questions. They want those concrete examples, not just, generalizations about your skills.
And this is where the STAR method comes in handy.
Oh yeah, the STAR method.
Situation, task, action, result.
Right.
It's a way to tell that concise, impactful story and highlight what the interviewer is looking for.
So instead of rambling, you're giving them a clear narrative. What was the context? What was your specific role? What actions did you take? And what was the outcome?
Exactly. So let's say they ask, tell me about a time you had to motivate a team facing low morale. You start by setting the scene. Maybe there were some budget cuts that impacted resources, or there was a particularly challenging incident that kind of shook everyone up a bit.
Okay, so you've set the scene. Now what?
Now you describe your task. Maybe you were the captain at the time, and it was your responsibility to rally the team. What specific actions did you take? Did you hold a team meeting? Offer some individual support? Find creative solutions to those resource issues?
Okay, and then you wrap it up with the result.
Right. Did morale improve? Did performance increase? Did you get positive feedback from your superiors or even from the team itself? And try to quantify the impact whenever possible. Use those metrics or specific examples of that positive change.
This structure is great for, keeping you focused, making sure you hit all those points the interviewer really cares about. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI tools can be super helpful here.
Oh, absolutely. You can plug in a sample answer and get feedback on whether it's hitting those STAR points effectively. Like, is your situation clear enough? Are your actions really specific, showcasing those leadership qualities? The AI can help you fine-tune your storytelling.
It's like having an interview coach right in your pocket. Okay, let's look at another common behavioral question. Describe a situation where you had to make a difficult decision with limited information. Now, this is a test of your judgment under pressure.
For sure. So think back to a time when you just didn't have all the answers. Maybe it was during a fast-moving fire incident or a resource allocation dilemma, maybe even a personnel issue. How did you gather the info you did have? What factors did you prioritize when making that decision?
Yeah, they're looking for how you think on your feet, how you weigh risks, and if you can make a reasoned judgment even without, a perfect picture.
Exactly. And be ready to discuss the outcome, too. Even if it wasn't perfect, what did you learn from it? How would you approach a similar situation in the future, knowing what you know now?
It's about showing that you can adapt, you learn from those mistakes, and you're constantly improving that decision-making process. Again, RoleCatcher's AI can help you out here, analyzing your answer to see if you're really conveying that thought process.
It's a great tool. Now, let's talk about a question that I know makes a lot of people nervous. Tell me about a time you failed. Nobody loves to talk about their failures, right? But this is more about self-awareness and resilience, not dwelling on the past.
It goes back to that, continuous learning idea. They want to see that you can learn from mistakes, not just successes. Choose a failure you genuinely learn from, one that really demonstrates growth.
Yeah. Maybe you misjudged a situation, made a decision that didn't work out how you hoped, or maybe you didn't delegate effectively. What matters is to be honest, take ownership, and highlight what you learned from it.
And connect it back to the chief fire officer role, right? How has that failure shaped how you approach leadership, communication, risk management? They want to see that you've grown from that experience and it's made you a stronger leader.
Exactly. A little vulnerability, when done right, can actually strengthen your application, show self-awareness and commitment to growth. Now, let's talk about collaboration with this one. Describe a situation where you had to work with a difficult teammate. Firefighting is all about teamwork. But let's be honest, not every teammate is a dream to work with.
Right. This one's really assessing your conflict management skills, your ability to build relationships, and achieve that shared goal, even with some personality clashes.
For sure. Think of a specific example. Maybe someone who was resistant to change, had a different work style than you, or was just, hard to get along with. How did you approach that situation? Did you try to see their point of view, set some clear expectations, maybe seek mediation or feedback from others?
And then, of course, what was the outcome? Did the relationship improve? Did you find ways to work well together? What did you learn about yourself or your communication style from it?
This is a chance to really showcase those interpersonal skills, your ability to handle those tricky relationships, and your commitment to that positive, productive work environment. Crucial for a chief fire officer who's leading a diverse team.
RoleCatcher talks about the importance of emotional intelligence in their career guide, and this question really puts that to the test. Okay, let's shift gears a bit to a question about influence. Describe a time you had to convince someone to see your point of view. This could be anything from, advocating for a new initiative to changing a procedure, even resolving a conflict.
Right, so think about a time you had to persuade someone who was initially resistant, maybe skeptical. How did you approach that conversation? Did you come armed with data and evidence? Appeal to their emotions, their sense of logic? Did you find some common ground and build a collaborative solution?
And it's not about winning the argument, right? It's about building consensus, getting everyone on board, and reaching that best outcome for the team or the whole organization.
It's about showing them you can communicate effectively, build those relationships, and influence others in a positive way. A chief fire officer needs to communicate their vision, inspire their team, and advocate for the department's needs.
Okay, let's move on to a question about learning and adapting. Describe a situation where you had to learn something new quickly. I mean, in firefighting, things change so fast. They want to see you're agile, adaptable, and you're excited to grow your knowledge and skills.
Yeah, absolutely. Think about a time you were thrown a curveball, a new technology, new procedure, or just a new challenge that required you to, pick things up quickly. Did you proactively seek training, collaborate with folks who had more experience, or maybe you experimented and learned through trial and error?
And then how did it turn out? Were you able to put that new knowledge or skill into practice? Did you share it with others? Did you, make it part of your ongoing development?
This is a great opportunity to show your willingness to embrace those challenges, that you're dedicated to learning and you can adapt to those ever-changing circumstances. All valuable traits for a chief fire officer who has to stay on top of things in a fast-paced field.
And as always, RoleCatcher can help you here,
Sure,
right?
absolutely. Their AI tools can analyze your answers and give feedback on how well you're showing that learning agility.
So it's looking at whether your examples are really showing that adaptability, problem solving, and that growth mindset, which again are key for a chief fire officer.
Definitely. Now let's move on to a question that's all about feedback. Tell me about a time you received constructive criticism. How did you respond, and what did you learn? Nobody loves being criticized, right?
Yeah.
But feedback, even if it's tough to hear, it's crucial for growth. They want to see that you're open to it,
Right.
that you handle it professionally, and that you use it to get better.
So think about a specific instance where you got feedback that was maybe hard to hear at first. Did you get defensive, brush it off, or did you really listen, reflect, and try to see it from their perspective?
That's the key. And what did you do with the feedback? Did you make some changes? Seek more feedback from others? Did you use it to develop new skills or improve the ones you had?
This is your chance to show you're humble, that you're willing to learn, and you're dedicated to always getting better. All important qualities for a chief fire officer who has to be open to feedback from, their team, their superiors, and the community.
Absolutely. And did you know RoleCatcher can actually help you practice this? You can record your response and get AI feedback on your tone, how well you're conveying that self-awareness and growth. It's amazing.
It's like having a personal coach. All right, we've got one more big one to tackle. This one's all about juggling multiple priorities. Tell me about a time you had to manage a ton of projects or responsibilities at once. How did you stay organized and manage your time? I mean, this is key for any leader, but especially for a chief fire officer who's overseeing this complex organization with so many demands.
Yeah, it's a lot. So think back to a time you had a crazy workload, maybe during a major incident, a staff shortage, or just when a bunch of projects landed on your plate. How did you handle it? What were your organizational strategies, specific tools or techniques? Did you delegate? And was your communication clear with the team and everyone involved?
And of course, what was the result? Did you get everything done? Meet your deadlines? Keep that high level of quality in your work?
This question is all about showing your organization, your prioritization skills, time management, and how you handle pressure. All essential when you're a chief fire officer managing that demanding workload.
And RoleCatcher emphasizes organization and planning a little T in their career guide. They even give specific tips and tools for project management. This is your chance to shine in those areas.
Right. Show that you understand the best practices and you actually APPLY them in real-world situations. You're not just winging it. You've got those solid organizational skills.
Okay, last question for this section. It's all about conflict. Tell me about a time you had to resolve a conflict between two team members. How did you handle it?
Conflict happens everywhere, right? But it's especially common in those high-stress firefighting environments. They want to know you can be the mediator, facilitate those tough conversations, and find solutions that work for the whole team.
Definitely. Pick a concrete example where you had to step in and help two team members resolve a conflict. Did you meet with them one-on-one? Facilitate a group discussion? Set some ground rules for how they communicate? Did you make sure everyone felt heard and respected?
And then how'd it go? Was the conflict resolved? Could they move forward in a positive, productive way? What did you learn about yourself, your conflict management style in that process?
This is where you show off those interpersonal skills, your ability to really listen, empathize, and your commitment to creating that harmonious, productive work environment. Absolutely key for a chief fire officer who's building and maintaining a strong team. Remember how RoleCatcher talks about teamwork in a hazardous environment? This is your chance to show how you create that safe space for conflict resolution, even when things are tense.
Right. It's about leading by example, fostering that culture of respect, and making sure everyone feels safe and supported.
Okay, last question, and it's a big one. If you were offered the chief fire officer position, what would be your top 3 priorities in the first 90 days? This shows your strategic thinking, understanding of the department's needs, and how you'll make a positive impact right away.
This is a great one to end on. So think about the biggest challenges and opportunities facing the department. Where can you make the biggest difference in that short time frame? Improving morale, training, community relations, new technologies. What are those key areas?
Be specific and make sure your answers are actionable. They want to see that you've really thought this through and you've got a plan.
You're showcasing your leadership vision, your understanding of the department, and your ability to deliver results. It's a final chance to show your passion for the role and leave a lasting impression.
Okay, we've tackled those tough behavioral questions, but we're not done yet. Let's talk about some final tips to really nail this chief fire officer interview.
It's all about preparation. Remember, you're not just showcasing those firefighting skills, you're presenting yourself as a leader who understands the department, the challenges, the future, the whole picture.
Right, so first things first, research. Don't just skim their website, really dig in. Their strategic plan, budget reports, any news articles about the department?
Yeah, look for those clues about their priorities. Are they all about community outreach, investing in new tech, maybe dealing with budget cuts? This gives you talking points to show you've done your homework.
And don't forget about the people. Check out the interviewers on LinkedIn. Understanding their background, their career path, even their connections in the fire service can help you tailor your approach.
It's all about finding those commonalities, those things that can really spark a connection. Maybe you both have experience with a certain type of incident management or a shared passion for, a specific aspect of fire safety.
Yeah, those little things can make a big difference. And speaking of making an impression, let's talk about, well, first impressions. What are your thoughts on presentation, that professionalism?
It might seem obvious, but dress the part. A chief fire officer is a leadership role. Your clothes should show that. I'd say go for a professional suit, make sure it fits well, shoes are polished, the whole 9 yards.
It shows that respect for the position and for the whole process. And confidence is key. Stand tall, eye contact, firm handshake. You're presenting yourself as a leader, not just a candidate.
Exactly. And body language is huge. Projecting that confidence, your posture, your demeanor, it makes a difference before you even say a word.
And don't forget, RoleCatcher's got that awesome video rehearsal feature in their AI tools. You can practice your answers and actually get feedback on your body language, your tone of voice, even things like, fidgeting or using filler words.
It's amazing, like having an extra set of eyes to catch those little habits that can sometimes, take away from your message. Keep practicing until you feel confident and authentic.
Yeah, it's like having a personal coach right there with you.
Okay, let's talk about those curveball questions, the ones that aren't directly about firefighting, but more about your leadership in general.
Right, those questions like, what's your biggest weakness? Or, tell me about a time you failed. They're not looking for perfection. They want to see self-awareness, a willingness to learn and grow.
So be honest, but frame it positively. Maybe you're a little too detail-oriented sometimes, but you're working on delegating more. Or you took a risk that didn't quite pan out, but you learned a valuable lesson about assessing those risks.
It's all about showing them that you can handle those challenges, that you can turn those setbacks into something positive, a learning opportunity. It goes right back to what RoleCatcher says about continuous learning, right?
Exactly. It shows you're dedicated to growth, not just as a firefighter, but as a leader. Okay, speaking of leadership, how do you approach the question, what's your leadership style? Okay, so this isn't the time to just rattle off some leadership theory. It's about being genuine, showing what really makes you effective as a leader. Do you lead by example? Are you collaborative? Do you focus on empowering your team?
And tie it back to the fire service. How does your style help you create a safe, efficient, and motivated team?
Think about some concrete examples from your career that really show your approach. Maybe you started a new training program that boosted morale and performance. Or you successfully navigated a conflict and brought your team closer.
Yeah, paint that picture of what it's like to work under your leadership. And remember, there's no right answer here. It's about being authentic and showing how your style fits the department's needs.
And as always, RoleCatcher's AI can help you fine-tune that answer, making sure it hits those leadership qualities in the job description.
It's like having a personal branding expert right there.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about wrapping things up. The interview's ending. How do you leave that lasting impression?
First off, reiterate your enthusiasm for the role. Let them know you're genuinely excited about leading their department, specifically.
And don't be afraid to show your confidence. Remind them of those key strengths, how they fit what the department needs. But do it with humility, not arrogance.
And ask thoughtful questions. Shows you're engaged, you're curious. Maybe ask about their vision for the department's future or any professional development opportunities.
Yeah, and avoid questions about salary or benefits at this stage. Focus on showing you're committed to the role and the department.
And last but not least, thank them for their time and consideration. Express your gratitude for the interview and restate your interest in the position.
A thank you goes a long way, but personalize it. Mention something you specifically learned or your excitement about a particular part of the job or department.
Oh, and follow up. Send a thank you note within 24 hours, restate your interest, and highlight a key point from the conversation.
Keeps you top of mind and shows that professionalism. So prepping for this chief fire officer interview, it's about more than just your resume. You're showing your passion, expertise, your vision for leading a team dedicated to protecting the community.
Exactly. Use all the resources you have, especially those amazing tools from RoleCatcher. Their AI can do so much, analyze job descriptions, suggest answers, even give you feedback on those video rehearsals. It's invaluable.
One last thought. You've dedicated your career to serving and protecting others. Now's the time to show them you're ready to lead.